You ever look at a field of corn or sugarcane and just wonder, how do they get so massive, so fast, especially when it's scorching hot out? Well, the secret isn't just sunshine and water. It's something much cooler. It's like they have a biological turbocharger for photosynthesis, and it's called the C4 pathway. We're going to break down exactly how this incredible piece of natural engineering works.
All right, here's the game plan. First, we'll look at the flaw in regular photosynthesis. Yeah, it has a flaw. Then we'll get into the amazing two-cell solution these plants came up with. We'll cover how they capture carbon, how they deliver it, the price they pay for all this perfection, and finally, why C4 plants totally rule in the right conditions.
Okay, so first things first. To really appreciate just how brilliant this C4 solution is, you have to understand the problem it solves, and it's a big one. A fundamental flaw in the most important process on the entire planet.
I know, it sounds kind of crazy, right? The engine of all life on Earth, photosynthesis, has a secret inefficiency? But it's true. And it all boils down to one single crucial enzyme that, well, sometimes gets a little confused.
So the main player in standard photosynthesis is an enzyme called Rubisco. Its entire job is to grab CO2 from the air and start the process of making sugar. Simple enough. But here's the flaw. When things get hot and dry, Rubisco messes up. It gets confused and accidentally grabs an oxygen molecule instead of CO2. This kicks off a totally useless process called photorespiration. It doesn't make any energy, it actually wastes a ton of the plant's resources. It's a huge, costly mistake.
And this is where our hero enters the story. To get around Rubisco's little problem, C4 plants brought in a new enzyme, PEP carboxylase, or PPC for short. Now, unlike the easily confused Rubisco, PPC is an absolute pro. It has one job and one job only: grab CO2. It has zero interest in oxygen, completely ignores it. It just doesn't make that mistake, ever.
But, just having a superstar enzyme wasn't the whole solution. To really make this work, C4 plants had to do something even more radical. They completely redesigned the anatomy of their leaves. This created an amazing division of labor that's really the secret to the whole thing.
And here it is. This is the absolute genius of the C4 system. It's all about teamwork between two different kinds of cells. You've got the outer cells, the mesophyll, which act like a reception area. That's where our hero, PEPC, is stationed, grabbing every bit of carbon that comes in. Then you have the inner cells, the bundle sheath. Think of this as a protected VIP lounge, where the old, unreliable Rubisco is kept, far away from all that distracting oxygen.
Okay, so how exactly does the plant shuttle that carbon from the reception area into the VIP lounge? Well, it all kicks off with a super efficient carbon capture system.
It happens in a few quick steps. First, as soon as CO2 enters the leaf, it gets converted into bicarbonate. Then, bam, our star enzyme PEPC grabs it. PEPC then stitches that bicarbonate onto another molecule called PEP. And what do you get? A new molecule called oxaloacetate, or OAA, which just so happens to have, you guessed it, 4 carbons. And that's why we call this the C4 pathway.
All right, so the carbon is captured, it's secure. Now it's time for the VIP delivery service to get it to that inner sanctum where Rubisco is waiting to do its job.
So that first molecule, OAA, is a little on the unstable side, so the plant quickly converts it into something a bit more durable, usually a molecule called malate. The best way to think about malate is like an armored car, securely transporting that precious carbon.
And this little armored car, malate, travels right from that outer mesophyll cell into the inner bundle sheath cell. And remember, that's our VIP lounge, a place that's totally sealed off from the high levels of oxygen that give Rubisco so much trouble.
Now, this is a really important point. Locking up CO2 as malate isn't the end of the story. It's just a temporary fix, a clever little transport trick to get the carbon exactly where it needs to be for the real work to begin.
Here's the magic. Once that malate is safely inside the bundle sheath cell, it drops off its passenger. It releases its carbon as pure CO2. This just floods the cell, jacking up the CO2 concentration to 10, even 20 times higher than normal. In this CO2-rich paradise, poor old Rubisco is so overwhelmed with carbon dioxide that it has literally zero chance of accidentally grabbing an oxygen. Problem solved. Photorespiration is completely taken out of the equation.
Okay, so this whole system is just elegant. It's incredibly efficient at stopping that wasteful process. But, like pretty much everything in life, all this high-performance engineering doesn't come for free. there's a price to pay. And that price comes in the form of energy. Let's look at the energy bill. For standard C3 photosynthesis, it costs the plant 3 units of cellular energy, that's ATP, for every molecule of CO2 it processes. But the C4 pathway? It's more expensive. It costs 5 ATP to get the same job done.
Yep, that's 2 extra ATP molecules. That's the toll the plant pays every single time it fixes a molecule of CO2. And that extra energy is specifically used to power the pump, to regenerate that starting molecule, PEP, so the whole cycle can start all over again.
So that begs the question, right? If the C4 pathway is more expensive, why would any plant use it? Why are some of our most productive crops C4 plants? Well, the answer is simple. Because in the right environment, the payoff for that extra energy cost is huge.
Think about it. In hot, sunny places, exactly where Rubisco starts messing up, C4 plants are in their element. By completely getting rid of those wasteful photorespiration losses, their yields just skyrocket. Plus, they're way better at using water and nitrogen, which gives them this massive competitive edge. Suddenly, spending an extra 2 ATP seems like a bargain when you're saving a ton of energy that would have been wasted by photorespiration.
And this isn't just some textbook theory. You see the proof of this strategy's success everywhere. We're talking about maize, sorghum, sugarcane, pearl millet. These are some of the most productive crops on the entire planet. They're agricultural giants, and they're all powered by the C4 pathway. They are, without a doubt, the masters of photosynthesis.
And that leaves us with a pretty mind-blowing final thought. Right now, scientists all over the world are trying to figure out how to engineer this C4 turbocharger into major C3 crops, like rice and wheat. So the big question is, if they pull it off, could this ancient biological trick be one of our most powerful tools for feeding a hotter, more crowded world?